Neato, let's do this thing.
Any new prayers or praises from anybody?
Um, I have a large praise. There's a woman that Ellie works with that she's been really working on for like a year and a half, and it was yesterday. They had like a real big heart to heart about God and Jesus and Christianity and everything else involved in that, and um, she was like telling her things that she'd really only told her husband, and just basically it seems like there might be a possibility to save a soul, and we've been praying about that for so long. So praises for prayers answered, and praise that conversation happened, and hopefully more can come from it.
Awesome. It's really cool.
My niece, she finally found out when her surgery was or is going to be, and it turns out it's actually just going to be Friday. So they thought it was going to be like 8 weeks away, but nope, it's going to be in 2 days. So
Oh,
prayers for that, and that's all going good. But yeah, so my family is going to leave tomorrow morning, go down there. I'm at my aunt's right now, house sitting for them, but so just prayers that goes good and that she can get through that because if she gets through that, then she's in good shape. So hopefully that goes well though. So big prayers for her on Friday and then after that for recovery.
What exactly does the surgery entail?
I honestly don't know. The best way that I understood it is essentially her heart's not like in the shape of a heart, and they're gonna go in there and do like the best that they can to make it more in the shape of a heart. But I don't really know exactly all the intricate details. I try to not know too much, but I just know it's a big surgery and that if she gets past that one though, she should be out of the woods, but she's super healthy right now, super strong. She's big, so
Cool.
hopefully she does good.
Would you want me to send that to our church prayer chain so they all can be praying for
It
her?
does not matter to me, brother. So that's up to you guys, but we'll take whatever prayers.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on there, so we could, if you're okay with it, I'll send a message later and they can get it on there.
Sounds good to me, brother.
A girl I work with, I think I was telling you, I can't remember if she had her daughter had her surgery yet or not. Do you guys remember? I think it was last Wednesday we had study, didn't we? Okay. So I don't think she had it yet. So she had her surgery and the recovery had been kind of rough and she had like a temperature, I think it was like 105 or something. And so like she was in the hospital for one night and they like gave her some IVs and stuff. And then she had to go back last night at like 1 o'clock in the morning because there was like bleeding. I think her stitch ripped or something. And like they couldn't stop the bleeding, so they said they were gonna have to do surgery again to, refix the stitch. But I think they had it under control. They said something about there was an infection, but they're still keeping her until tomorrow night to kind of make sure the bleeding doesn't come back. So she hasn't had to have surgery again yet. So hopefully it stays that way. And yeah, just prayers for that whole situation because she's 3 and that's a lot for a 3-year old. I think it's been pretty rough, but
Say on my end, just continued prayers for my grandpa. I think he's doing about the same, but keep praying that he can cough up all that junk so his lungs can clear up.
he can have my cough if he needs. My word.
Might take it, I don't know.
Jeez, drive me crazy.
Well, so we can dive on
So
in. Carson, you want to pray?
yeah, I'll pray for us and we can get into our study. Dear Lord, please be with us tonight as we've all come here to gather and study your word, Lord. Please be with all the prayer requests that we mentioned, Lord. both spoken and unspoken, Lord. Just answer those in the way that you see fit, Lord, and keep your hand on those. Be with the message tonight, Lord, that Trace has prepared for us. Help it speak to us. We're going over a lot of different things, a lot of different directions, Lord, but keep helping us get the most out of it, Lord, and help us be the best disciples we can be for you, Lord. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
And all right, so we're going to be in Luke chapter 5 tonight. And this is the story of Simon fishing when they kind of had the first disciples encounter Jesus on the bank, and they weren't catching any fish all night, and then Jesus appeared to them and completely overflowed their boats with fish. Do you guys remember that story?
Had the cast on the other side of the boat.
Yep. So, have you guys heard or watched any of The Chosen?
Chosen? I have not. I don't know what that is.
So, it's on Prime if you guys have Prime, but it's pretty much like just the story of Jesus, and it came out about a year or so ago. But it's pretty much a TV show about Jesus and his uprising and everything, and it's from tons of historians and everything. It's like pretty extremely accurate, and we just started watching it. My parents have been watching it for a while, and like my dad said it changed his life just being able to see like Jesus back in the day, and like the all the human and all the disciples and all that stuff. So if you guys don't get anything out of tonight, I'd recommend you guys starting that. It's super, super cool. I'm hooked on it already. But so this story was I think it was one of the first few episodes, but it was like probably one of the first few miracles that Jesus performed. During this time, he was trying not to just go out in the middle of public and perform tons of miracles in front of everybody because the Romans and kind of all the danger, and he wasn't completely ready for his ministry to blow up yet. So it's a little background there. One of the first disciples was Simon Peter. I'm sure you guys know him. And this story is kind of centered around him, but a little bit on who Simon Peter was. Simon was a zealot from Bethsaida near Capernaum. Do you guys know what a zealot is?
Is that like the same thing as a zealot? Zealot?
That's probably
Just
what
how
it
you're supposed to pronounce it?
is. Probably. It's pretty much he is a Jew. So back then, obviously before Jesus came, like Jews were pretty much the church back in the day, but he was a zealot. Thanks, Carson.
No, I think you're right, maybe.
I
I don't
don't know.
know. Like I'm confused.
It sounds better. I'm gonna start saying that.
I've heard zealot before, I think.
Zealot, yeah. All right. So Simon, he grew up as a fisherman, which his father was a fisherman. Um, back then, fishermen were pretty much the lower class in ancient Rome. So, as you know, many of the disciples were lower class, and that's kind of why Jesus called on them. But Simon is Andrew's brother. So Andrew and Simon were pretty much the first two disciples of Jesus, and um, this story is pretty much the first time he called these two to be his disciples, so which is pretty cool. So kind of who Simon was, and the Chosen shows it pretty well, but Simon was a pretty much a man of impulse. So he was also optimistic, but he kind of just made decisions on the fly, and he would always get in trouble because he would often speak without thinking. So that was kind of who Simon was. But Jesus kind of saw who Simon was deep down and everything, and that's why he ended up calling him. But the time of the story, Simon was 30. He was married and he had 3 kids. And this is kind of his first true encounter with Jesus the Messiah. So, a little bit of background before we start reading into the story. So, I kind of wrote all this based off of how The Chosen portrayed it, but I think it was pretty accurate. So Simon grew up in a house who worshiped God and followed God. He was an honest and true man until he began drifting away kind of shortly before he met Jesus. At this time, he owed a lot of taxes to the Roman government, and he was he was sort of able to stay out of prison because he was like he would just be able to talk him out of it and say, "I'll pay you back later, whatever. I got this going on." Kind of the man who Simon was, but so he had a lot of taxes to the Roman government. And the whole time while this was going on, he was kind of keeping this secret of, it just kept adding on and adding on. He was keeping it away from his wife until it kind of became too large and too dangerous to not tell her. So he ended up telling her. And then give me a second. I need to. Okay. So he finally told his wife and kind of what they were up against. Because back then, when you're married, you're one family and everything. So they were in danger. And then she pretty much kind of confronted him and said that he is not the man that she married. He kind of, like I said, he'd been drifting off away from God and telling lies to people and just kind of occupying his life with stuff that doesn't involve God. And then shortly after this, Matthew, which is a Roman tax collector at the time, Matthew ended up becoming a disciple of Jesus, which was kind of unheard of because our tax collector back then pretty much had the best life possible, right? Because they collect taxes and the Roman government took care of them. But anyway, Matthew he came to Simon and said, like, if you don't get your debts paid by the morning, then you're going to get thrown in prison. So, and that's where the story takes off. Any questions up until this?
I got
We are
nothing.
in Luke chapter 5, and we'll just start out by reading 1 through 3.
All right. One day, as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, the people were crowding around him and listening to the word of God. He saw at the water's edge 2 boats, left there by fishermen who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat.
Ready? So I kind of broke this up into pretty short pieces. It's a short story, but so Simon was faced with a huge challenge. He was pressured because he had to catch enough fish through the night to pay for his debts, and I'm sure you can imagine how many fish that would take to pay months and months of debt racking up. So, as you guys can probably infer, he was stressed out because he had to pay his debts. His wife was unhappy with him and everything, so he pretty much got up and said he's going to go fish for the night and see if he can catch enough fish. Joining him was his brother Andrew, his father, and his friends at the time, James and John, who also became disciples, and also Nathaniel. So they knew what the stake that he was at, that he had to pay his debts and everything. So they said, we'll go out and fish with you to see if we can catch enough overnight to save you. So yeah, Jesus. So that pretty much they fished all night, like from dark to dusk, and didn't catch a thing. And Simon was getting pretty frustrated and stressed out and everything. And they're up near the bank where they saw Jesus, and he was preaching to quite a few people up on the shore. Just, like in the Bible, it says a crowd gathered and listened to him, kind of that sort of thing. But um, his brother Andrew already had, I think, one encounter with Jesus before this happened. So he kind of instantly recognized and he was like, guys, that's Jesus the Messiah. And like he might be able to help us out or whatever. And Simon at the state he was in kind of was a little iffy, obviously. But so, yep, that's what I got on that part. Um, then we can read 4 through 7, kind of gets into the bones of the scripture.
I can read it. And when he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch." And Simon answered, "Master, we toiled all night and took nothing. But at your word I will let down the nets." And when they had done this, they enclosed a large number of fish, and their nets were breaking. They signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both the boats so that they began to sink.
So there we go. There's one of Jesus's first miracles. So, um, because of the stress and anger that Simon was under, he kind of had a little bit of faith, not as much faith as he probably should. But Andrew, his brother, already had quite a bit of faith in Jesus because he had already had an encounter with him, and he insisted that like, Jesus told you to throw your nets in the water, so go ahead and throw them in the water. So, like we heard, he casted his nets and then pulled in an unreal amount of fish. Just one cast after they'd been casting all night. And in the chosen, it was pretty cool. Like they were obviously all freaking out and like this is crazy, but they're also trying to pull all these fish into their boats, and it's like enough fish to overflow 2 boats. So you can imagine the weight that would have. But um, so then they pretty much like the nets begin to break, so they jumped out of the boat, pulled the boats to the shore, and got all the fish loaded into the boat. So pretty awesome. Also, one part I forgot to mention. Before they or when they saw Jesus obviously knew what they were going through and everything, but he was preaching to these people. In the show, they had probably like 20 people or so, but he was preaching to these people, and more people just kept coming on in. So he asked them if he could stand on the bow of their boat to kind of get elevated to speak to more people so they can hear him. And they ended up letting him do that. So I think that kind of added a little more faith into Simon's mind, like um, just having the courage to, let this man preach to these people off of his boat and everything, especially when he's pressured to catch enough fish for all of his debts. But yeah, anyone got anything you want to add to that?
Quick point I was thinking about is you said Simon had a little bit of faith, and I feel like there's a lot of people who start out their walk with Christ with a little bit of faith and a lot of desperation. They're
Yep,
going through a really tough time, and they're like, I don't even really know you, but you're there, so I'm gonna see if you can help me out.
exactly.
And he will help you out, and usually not the way you expect. It's not like it's unlikely he's going to drop a boatload of fish at your front door, or in today's society would be a duffel bag full of cash, but he might help you out in whatever other way that can get you to where you need to be. And it's also important to mention that you said it was Andrew had already seen him and had faith.
Yeah,
So it's also important to have people around you who have faith as well to help you along in that. Because if it was just Simon out in that boat and Jesus was over there and he had little faith and a lot of desperation, it's also possible he was just been like, "Oh, just gonna go this way. I'm
right.
being very sinful. I'm gonna not be close to the one who judges." So, um, yeah, I think that's how a lot of people start. It's very unlikely that someone wins the lottery and having no relationship with Christ goes, "Dang, Jesus, you really followed through for me on that one, man. That was pretty clutch." Or so it's usually in desperation that people start their spiritual walk.
Exactly right. We're probably 6 or 7 episodes in, and it's a lot of these miracles are around the chapter that we're reading right now, but pretty much every miracle is that exact situation that you talked about. Like someone is pretty much like the man that's paralyzed, you guys know, so he's desperate obviously, but he has a friend that has a little bit of faith in Jesus, and they have the courage to bring him to Jesus. So that's a really good point. I think it's really powerful. It's always up to that person to, what we always say, plant the seed, right? It's just that all you have to do is say something for them to kind of think about it. But cool. Well, we can finish up the story 8 through 11. So pretty much at this point, they got all the fish in the boat and everything, and Simon comes to realization that this is actually Jesus. And one thing that's also really interesting is all the characters in the show, they have the Old Testament and everything, and they know that there is going to be a son that is coming to this earth, because obviously God is foreshadowing in that part. But so the whole time I've been thinking, like, we've been reading about this for thousands of years. Like, what are the odds that like the Messiah is like at my house, my house at this time in my life, right? Like, even if you're seeing him perform miracles and everything, like you'd have to have just a little bit of doubt. So, but I just think, yeah, that'd be truly amazing to know who Jesus was gonna be, and then actually see him perform miracles in front of your eyes.
It's kind of awesome too, just kind of seeing like when Jesus walks into a room, it almost feels like you can tell everyone is at like peace, like they've seen him, complete these miracles and everything, and so they, for one, have a little bit of hope, but just being around him, I feel like brings everybody peace and just a calmness that I think more people need.
He also has an
Yeah,
effect to draw a crowd that just listens.
Yeah.
exactly.
Everyone just kind of stops what they're doing, turns, and just kind of listens to what he has to say. No one's freaking out. No one's losing their mind. No one's asking for autographs or anything crazy like that. They literally just turn and listen.
Right. Yeah, I think that's kind of why he stood out in his time, which was kind of the whole purpose that he came, but was like back then there were like priests and pastors and everything, but they were more of like political figures. Like they had power and they had money and everything, and they didn't really, I guess they preached to people, but they pretty much told them what to do, rather than like Jesus. He's like explaining it through stories and everything, right? Like he is the poor person teaching the poor person what to do. So I thought that was really cool as well, which made a lot of sense after reading stories in the Bible.
Another thing that Jesus and also in parallel God do, that these political religious figures wouldn't do, is give you free will and love you enough to let you walk away. I heard something
Yep.
about that the other day. He loves you enough to let you walk away and ruin your own life if you don't want to live in a life for him. And he is always going to be right there. There's another, I think it's in Luke. There's another parable about a father and a son, and his father has a large amount of wealth, and son says, "Hey, instead of waiting for you to die, can I just have my inheritance now?" So dad liquidates some assets, gives it to the son. Son goes off, lives this crazy life, parties and whatever, blows all of it, and a few years later, he comes home and he's like, run through his mind. Okay, so I obviously messed up. Maybe my dad will take me back in and let me live with him if I become a servant or whatever. And he's running through all these different conversations, how the conversation is going to go in his mind. And he gets home, and his dad is ecstatic. He is just running out to his son as he walks up the drive, and takes him in and gives him food and a bed, and just like nothing happened. Like he didn't just take half of his money, go blow it on a bunch of stupid stuff, come back, and that is this exact same patience that God has. That He will let you, He will give you, He gives us the free will to go live our own life if we choose to do, and it will be a much lower quality life than we did if we walked with Him. But He gives us that free will to make that choice because He loves us so much. But if we do make that choice and we want to come back to Him, or we show interest in coming back, He is there with open arms, ready to accept you and bring you in and put clothes on your back and food in your stomach and a bed to sleep in and all these things. He'll lead you back to where you need to be. And I think that's kind of the exact same way Jesus is in these stories. Is He's not trying to tell you what to do. He's teaching what to do if you want to follow Him and follow a life that's built around God.
That is spot on. All right, well, someone wants to read 8 through 11. We can wrap up. Kind of see Simon's reaction to the miracle, and like, as you can imagine, all the emotions that are running through his mind at the time. He's went from he's gonna get thrown in prison to this guy performed a miracle and put all these fish in his hands to like, Jesus, I will follow you and do whatever you want me to do. And then we'll read, but he also becomes a disciple and just immediately starts following him. So 8 through 11.
I'll finish it up for us. But when Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord. For he and all who were with him were astonished at the catch of fish that they had taken, and also were James and John, sons of Zebedee, who were partners of Simon. And Jesus said to Simon, Do not be afraid. From now on you will be catching men. And then they brought their boats to land, and they left everything and followed him.
There you go. There's the grace of Jesus to a T right there. So, like I said, Simon quickly realized that Jesus was indeed the Messiah that many people had been talking about, but he felt as if he was not good enough to accept, the miracle that Jesus just gave him. But as we all know who Jesus is, he instantly goes, Do not be afraid. From now on, how you can repay me back is you can follow me and fish for men instead of fish. So I think that is so cool. Just, the grace that God and Jesus has on us. Um, so yeah, that's before I go into my few main takeaways. What do you guys think of that last part there? How would you react? Would you act kind of like Simon and be like, I am not good enough for you? Like, you shouldn't be messing with me right now, and
I
you
think
know,
I think I know enough to know that's not how Jesus operates.
yeah,
As a Christian, I know that I fall short of the glory of God every single day, every single second of every single day. Um, but he says, "Go away from me, Lord. I am a sinful man." He does not have the same faith in Jesus and God that I have because he's not been doing this for years. He's been doing his own
yeah,
thing. But we know that the Lord does not walk away from us. We have to walk away from Him. Um, and at the same time, this was a very small miracle in comparison to the miracle of salvation that we get to have. We get to follow Jesus, announce Him as our Lord and Savior, and then we get to go up to heaven, walk through those pearly gates, having lived a life of sin that He washed clean through His sacrifice on the cross. That is more miraculous than anything. That I think that is more miraculous than anything ever in the history of ever.
yeah,
So that's just I know I've obviously spent a lot of time in the Bible and spent a lot of time in prayer, and I'd like to think I have a great relationship with Jesus. Obviously not the best, and I'm striving to make it better every day, but I understand that this is a small miracle in comparison. But when you don't have that comparison to make, like holy smoke, this guy just walked up and said, "Hey, toss your net over on the other side and see what happens. Drop it down to the bottom, scoop up some fish, and you'll be fine." And all of a sudden, you have like 18 metric tons of fish out of nowhere. You're like,
yeah.
"Holy smoke!" It's like, yeah, how else do you react to that? And in
Right.
Simon's shoes,
Yeah, another thing that I kind of thought of just now, but so that was his first encounter with Jesus, and this is like really early in Jesus's ministry. So obviously they knew about the Messiah, but they did not have near as much knowledge that we have about the Messiah, obviously, because they were living in his time. And I think another thing that's could weigh into it a little bit is they're living their lives according to the old laws, opposed to, what we know now, which is the New Testament and how it's so much easier and everything. But I think that kind of weighs into his reaction a little bit. Also, I think he had full faith that Jesus was the Messiah before his eyes, but he just did not feel worthy enough to accept or even be around him. But
he must not know the story of Paul.
yep.
I
Yeah,
mean, if I was in his shoes, I had no idea how I would have
I
reacted.
know,
Yeah,
There's no telling what I would have done. Because I feel like right now I'm hindsight's 2020. Like Logan said, I know what Paul did. I know
yep.
what a lot of other people have been through. I can just read about it, but for him to have that faith to go follow and be catchers of men, that's pretty impressive.
yeah. Johannes Gutenberg hadn't existed yet to make the printing press, so it was hard to get your hands on a Bible and read about the stories. So
You had to get your hands on a tablet.
yeah, had to find
A stone, a stone
stone
tablet.
tablet.
Yeah.
That's why it's easier just to go listen to somebody.
Exactly.
Probably Simon probably I don't even know if Simon knew how to read. Probably wasn't that important back then. They didn't have literacy tests.
Trace, do you know what
Right.
type of fish they were catching?
What'd you say?
You know what type of fish they were catching?
I don't.
Did that come up in any of the research? I'm sure it's like
Uh,
halibut or something like that, but
I Google it.
yeah, look it up real quick. That could be interesting because
what is that, like the Dead Sea, the Red Sea, somewhere in there?
it's in.
Really good at typing.
It would be in
It is
Beth State.
It is widely believed to have been tilapia, a common fish in the Sea of Galilee that is now famously called St. Peter's fish.
Huh.
Any idea what kind of fish that is?
It's pretty
Tilapia?
good. Yeah,
It's
it's like a farm fish almost nowadays.
Yeah,
It's
that's
kind of
pretty much
fresh.
any restaurant you go to now and order fish, it'll be tilapia.
Mild flavored white fish, popular for its lean protein content and white flaky flesh. Ugh, I hate fish. Fish is disgusting.
I like fish. Tilapia is good to me.
Tilapia is
I like
good.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like chicken. I like beef.
I like both of those too.
I ain't like pigs. Ugh.
Logan, you're gonna have to try yourself some St. Peter's fish.
I if one of you guys make it for me, I will have it for the glory of God.
I'd
Tonight
start
we're having
binging it.
St. Peter's fish.
That's
Uh,
crazy.
that's good.
I want to know how much one fish like covered his debt. Like how much each fish was.
How many fish he had to catch to cover his debt?
Right. I think, according to the show, and obviously Jesus, when he performs miracles, he kind of goes overboard. But um, I'm pretty sure like so after he caught all those fish, his dad said, "You go follow Jesus. I'll take care of the fish and your debts." So he went and sold them everything, and then they got the money to the Roman government, and they were like in disbelief because it was so much money, which I don't think compared anywhere to what his debts were. But
Which, if you calculate inflation, is about a thousandth of a cent of fish.
right.
2,000 years ago.
The Romans were like, well, maybe he needs to be put under pressure more often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on. If he's that efficient.
Yeah. Hold on. We're gonna be
Wait, we
hiring
forgot. Wait, we forgot about this late payment fee of 100 million shekels.
him. Right.
Go get us some more fish.
So yeah, pretty cool story. I got a few main takeaways here I can read. I'm sure we've already discussed them, but the first one I said, oftentimes in our lives, we find ourselves consumed in what the world has for us rather than what Jesus has for us. So obviously in this situation, Simon's consumed at, all of his debts and his uh, going or getting well with his wife and all that stuff. During times of struggle, all we have to do is drop what we have in the hands of God, and He'll take care of those things. And while we do that, then we can pursue what God actually wants us to do. So when I typed that out, I thought of the Bible verse, cast your anxieties on him because he cares for you. So such an amazing thing when we're going through struggles or stresses or anything. God literally says he will take care of all of that stuff for you if you just trust in him and believe in him, which is pretty much the best tool that we can have. In the story, we see that Simon and the rest of his partners dropped everything they had to follow Jesus without a care in the world. I think that's how we should take care of our daily struggles is, if you're stressing on this thing and how the human mind works, it just keeps rolling and rolling in your head. If you can really just trust in God and just give it to him, then he will take care of it and take all those struggles away. Second one, I said God's plan doesn't always make sense, but if we put our faith in him, he will direct our paths. And then oftentimes we'll quickly realize that that his plan turns out to be way better than whatever we had in whatever our plan was. And lastly, when God calls us to do things in our lives, without a doubt in our mind, we should always drop what we're doing and pursue the calling without hesitation. I think that's what a true disciple of Jesus does is if you are called if you're called to pay for someone's meal at the store or whatever, like it could be as little as that, or if you're called into ministry, whatever it is, like we should just, if we know that calling is coming from God, truly drop and do what we're supposed to do. And that made me think of my grandpa. He had many real life stories just like this. I don't know how many times him and my dad and uncle and grandma he would just call him into the living room for a meeting and he'd be like, guys, God is calling me to go preach in the Boot Hill. And he's like, so we're going to move and pack up and go down there. But every single time that he did that and trusted in God, like it paid off way more than if he were to just stay where he was at. So, and then lastly, I said, watch The Chosen. It can transform your life. it's it's really cool. Just the perspective that it is. Like it puts the human into the disciples, and like even Jesus has humor, which obviously he was human, so he probably would have humor back in the day. But
Yeah. We've said God's pretty funny. He's got a sense of
Yep.
humor if you really look for it.
Yep, Grandpa always said that. Like God had a sense of humor here. So
It was pretty cool, like his reaction when in the show, like after he went back home to tell his wife and everything, he was just, telling her everything. He's like, well, he told me that we're gonna go catch men. He's like, I'm not sure what that means. But he's like, I'm gonna do it. And so just like seeing his faith grow from like the beginning of that miracle to like the end of it, he didn't really know what to expect or what was ahead, but he had no doubt, and he definitely transformed as far as putting all his faith and trust into what was next.
another thing that was really cool was when he every time he told his wife like that he was gonna go follow Jesus to do this or whatever, he would have a little bit of doubt and hesitation, but his wife would say, Jesus picked you for a reason. So you are equipped to do this. You should not stress or have any doubts about this. And I thought that was really, really cool because, he was doing all the work while his wife was like, you can do this. Like I know who you are and I know who Jesus is. So I loved that part. That was super cool.
God created marriage so you guys can join together and become stronger together.
Exactly. You become one flesh.
One flesh with God. It is hard to break. It's hard. Triangle is one of the strongest or whatever shapes or whatever. That's
Yep.
between you, your spouse, and God. Beautiful thing. That's why I cry at every wedding I go to.
Not gonna lie, me too, man.
Stinks,
I
but
was
whatever.
I would just look at the groom and the brides walking down, and they're like tearing up, and then I'm like, ah!
I definitely didn't do that at all. Not even a little bit.
Yeah,
It's alright. I'm almost certainly cry at yours, so it'll be fun.
yeah. It just every time someone like apologizes for crying or whatever, I'm like, it just means you have a heart.
Yeah.
It's good. Just means you care and have a heart.
You guys have a date yet?
May 14th
Oh
is the day.
yeah.
You guys will be getting a save the date.
Consider the date saved.
Whoa. We have spilt water in the floor.
Heck yeah. That's fun. May 14th. May's a really good month to get married in, I heard.
My mom's birthday is May 15th, so
Happy
we
bir-
were in between like 2 weekends, and I'm like, I don't care, it's up to you. And then my mom was there, she's like, do the 14th. It'll be a birthday present.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. That's gonna be a heck of a rager for
Right.
mom's 50th or whatever. I don't know what she is.
You better kill that turkey early.
Of course, Carson is
least it
concerned
ain't-
about hunting.
Today in November.
We're gonna have some putt at the wedding.
Wedding?
Putt putt?
Yeah, there's a person who brings like these mobile little putt setup things, and so while you're taking pictures and stuff, you can play putt. It's kind of
Heck
cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds dangerous. I might miss the wedding playing putt putt.
It won't be set up before the wedding.
Probably for the best.
Yep.
All right, next Wednesday. October 29th, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Anyone feeling really strongly about leading it? If not, I will. Copy.
You got it.
You say if someone's busy or something, I can do it, but whatever.
8 o'clock still work for y'all?
Yeah, that works. 8, or if you guys want to do earlier, I could probably usually do earlier, but 8 seems to be the magic number for right now.
Works for me.
Cool, cool.
All right, I'm going to